Well, good day everyone. It's Adam Kay here from Cotton Australia. I just thought I'd make a couple of introductory comments, and then I can hand over to our presenters today. It's been a pretty fast ride with this Better Cotton initiative. You know, it was only a few years ago, sort of 2.5 years ago, that Simon Corish and I sort of went to our first Better Cotton Council meeting, and actually Cotton Australia got a position on the council there, and Simon has been representing Cotton Australia at the Better Cotton Initiative Council for a few years now. But yeah, certainly in that time we've seen you know, a real growth in the number of farmers that are participating in the Better Cotton Initiative, and also a real growth in the number of mills and retailers and brand owners that are demanding better cotton, and because of that, you know, it facilitates this trade in better cotton, and so today we've got this webinar where we've got some of the people that really know this inside and out presenting to you and taking your questions, and for those of you that are online, there's a PowerPoint presentation as well. So you know, at the moment in Australia, for those of you that don't know, we're in our Best Management Practices program, which we've got linked to the Better Cotton Initiative. You know, if you're a certified grower in the Best Management Practices program, you're automatically in. We're accredited with the Better Cotton Initiative. At the moment in BMP, we've got over 520 growers registered, and they account for around about 940 farms. And we're gradually taking those people through the BMP program. You know, I think most of you know it's not a tick and flick. There's lots of work to do to get, you know, farms up to speed. And currently we've got around about 120 farms that are fully accredited and audited and can sell cotton as, you know, BCI cotton or better cotton lint. And so, you know, that's around about, last season it was about 10% of the Australian crop, and that's growing pretty rapidly. And I guess, you know, we'll work out what crop size we've got this coming season and how much it is, but it's certainly been growing. Globally, better cotton's about 12% of global production, and I know the BCI team are working to have better cotton at 30% of global production by 2020. That's their goal. So you know, they're working hard at it, and they're really working hard at driving the uptake of better cotton by retailers and brand owners. So there's a lot of action, you know, happening on the demand side and driving the demand of better cotton. So, you know, and whilst we've been excited that there, you know, have been some, you know, small premiums out there, you know, the real premium for Australian cotton is going to be just the, you know, maintaining a strong basis for Australian cotton, and that's really just so important. So yeah. You know, and today, you know, we've got Karim and Corin from the Better Cotton Initiative, and yeah, they're joining us. Both really understand trading and also the Better Cotton Tracer system. Corin has a background as a ginner merchant. In another lifetime, he worked for Nick at Plexus, and so yeah, he understands where a lot of our merchants and traders are coming from.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Karim with BCI. I'm the supply chain manager here. My job is to make sure that your bales find homes, and there's a traceability system in place to track volumes at a global level. I'm really excited to be speaking to you. I'll be happy to answer all your questions later on during this webinar, and hopefully we'll make the best out of our time together. Really quickly, some basics about BCI and what our standards are and what we do around here. BCI is an NGO based in Geneva and is governed by the following board that companies you're seeing on your screen. I really wanted to show you guys the slide simply because I wanted to demonstrate that BCI is not just a retailer's club or a merchant's club or a supplier's club or an NGO all by itself. It's actually governed by a mix of different types of organizations throughout the entire cotton supply chain. plus a few extras in the civil society and independent categories. Every big decision, whether it's our chain of custody, traceability system, how BCI is to be traded, where the money is to be invested, has to go through our council or board, if you will. So it's a quite democratic setup. Everybody has equal say, and Cotton Australia, as you can see, is on our board, and we appreciate their participation quite a lot. They're absolutely a vital part of our organization at the moment. BCI, again, we're actually a small NGO based in Geneva, Switzerland. We globally have 55 staff located in 8 countries. You're able to see those on the screen. At the end of the slide deck, I've included contact information for our supply chain team, so you guys can contact them anytime you like. Time differences obviously require us to respond to different inquiries and different times, but we do have an office in Delhi, India, Lahore, Pakistan, and Shanghai. That's you guys. So if you're unable to get in touch with me for one reason or another, or anyone else from our headquarters, these guys are out there to help you as well. So please don't hesitate to reach out to us at any point in time. So our goal, we want to transform cotton production worldwide by developing better cotton as a more sustainable mainstream commodity. This sounds like a tall order, but I like to really emphasize mainstream commodity. We've seen different examples of sustainably grown cotton in the past, and we're still seeing them, of course. We have the organic fair trade and different other types of standard systems, just like my BMP, APR in Brazil. As BCI, we want to bring all these standards under one umbrella, at least those that fit in perfectly with our set of standards, and we want to make cotton production sustainable across the globe. And the idea behind mainstreaming is it's not just going to stay as a niche little program. We want to become a truly global standard system. Yeah, so what do we mean by mainstreaming? As Adam mentioned minutes ago, our goal by 2020 is to reach out to 5 million cotton farmers and license 30% of global cotton production as BCI. Again, this is a humongous project that we've taken undertaken, but things are looking up great at the moment, and I have no doubt that we'll actually reach this 30%. A lot of people ask from time to time, well, what's the significance of 30%? We believe that 30% is going to be a tipping point for us. Once we reach this volume, this critical mass, hopefully things will start snowballing, and we'll be able to much rapidly increase our supply volumes. So better cotton standard system. It's a holistic approach to sustainable cotton production, covering all 3 pillars of the environmental, social, and economic. The 6 items you're seeing on your screen are making up all the basics of what we stand for in our standard system. Production principles and criteria I'll talk to you more about it in the next slide. Those are the principles that we train our farmers on. Capacity building is bringing in more supply and more farmers. Obviously, assurance program is all about verification that the growers and farmers are actually following our standards. Chain of custody is under my management. There are different types of chain of custody models out there for sustainably grown commodities. I'll talk to you more about that later on during this webinar. BCI uses a mass balance system. claims is something quite crucial, and I definitely want to go over that later on again, because I think we're at a very exciting point in terms of BCI. This year, for the first time, we'll be introducing the on-product tags or marks on finished products. So again, we're hoping that that will have a huge impact on more demand from the retailers and brand side, and results and impact. First, we have to measure the impact of our standard system, which is quite interesting for all of our stakeholders, of course. Production principles and criteria. What are the BCI standards at the farm level? We concentrate, we basically deliver a certain training, partnering up with local experts to our farmers, and this training concentrates on their 6 main titles that you can see on your screen. And under these 6 key principles, we have 44 different other criteria. So it's quite a comprehensive training system, if you will. Benefits to growers and the cotton industry. This was one of the questions that came in the survey that we sent out several weeks ago. I think when we talk about BCI, the impact of these trainings and standards are going to be different in different countries, depending on how advanced the cotton industry is in that country. So our impact, for example, in an African country or in Pakistan or India is going to be very different than Australia or the US or Brazil, obviously. But so when we talk about benefits to growers and the cotton industry as a whole, I wanted to come up with a couple of different scenarios and wanted to really think about it from different perspectives. For example, production principles, the slide, the items that we I showed you guys in the previous slide, they're based on input optimization. This has a huge impact in some of the developing countries that BCI is currently present at. However, in other countries such as Australia or the US or Brazil, where cotton production is much more advanced, in fact, some of the best practices in the world exist in these countries. The benefit that BCI brings to the table could be access to markets with an increasing demand in terms of rewarding sustainable growers. As we build demand, as we bring in more retailers and brands and they start placing their BCI orders, obviously we want our cotton growers in highly advanced countries to also be able to take part in these programs, sourcing programs. The other 3 items. Social license for cotton as a global industry. The 4th item, which is I believe is quite important to you guys, obviously, are receiving premiums for BCI orders. And then the last one is better management practices are often more profitable, and this is obviously a no-brainer. Not going to talk about this slide too much, as it does not relate to Australia at a high extent, but just to show you guys the type of impact that BCI's standard system is creating in developing countries. When we show this slide to our retailers and brands, you can imagine the reaction. It's quite an impactful system we have, and as I mentioned, we don't expect the impact of BCI to be the same in a developing country and in an advanced country at the same level. But when you talk about the benefit of BCI to the cotton industry in general, I think we're doing doing a lot of good work in some of these countries outside of Australia, US and Brazil, and you can see our results on the slide. All right, on this slide you're seeing a sample, just a sample of some of the BCI retailer brand members, and again this is going towards what I was mentioning before, the demand. We are an NGO, but I think what separates us from other sustainability initiatives is we don't just license the commodity and then leave it at the farm level and expect people to find it and source it. We engage with retailers and brands quite actively. We have a team that is actively recruiting, reaching out to new brands and retailers and convincing them to source more sustainable cotton. And when I say more sustainable cotton, I'm definitely not talking about just better cotton. We encourage our retailers and brands to also use and source organic, fair trades, BMP, ABR, CMIA. So our approach is quite comprehensive and not just centered around better cotton alone. Again, the brands you're seeing or retailers you're seeing on your screen are just a sample of it. We have 62 of these guys as of today, and that number is increasing quite rapidly. On this slide, guys, you're seeing the type of targets that some of our retailers have already set and publicly communicated. So if you go to H&M's website or IKEA's website and look for BCI, you'll be able to see these targets being publicly communicated on their websites, which means that these guys are truly committed to sourcing the percentages of their cotton consumption as BCI quite strongly. And this is exactly what we're trying to achieve here at BCI when we engage with retailers and brands. We encourage them to set these targets, and then we try to help them as much as possible to make sure that they will reach these targets and they know which suppliers to go to and how to approach them, how to use the traceability, and so that at the end of it they can make their claims with confidence.
Yes.
I can hear you fine, Rick.
Okay, good.
All right.
Okay, now how is BCI managed in Australia? Well, it's under an agreement between BCI, the Better Cotton Initiative, and Cotton Australia, which was signed in November 2014. So we've only actually been trading now. This is our second year where we've been actually working with the Better Cotton industry in Australia. So it's managed in Australia through Cotton Australia and through the BMP program for certification. So growers are required to meet the BMP certification standards in order to be eligible to sell Better Cotton. So BMP is being mapped against all the Better Cotton principles and standards. So and this is implemented through the BMP office in Toowoomba. So when a grower wants to become opt into the Better Cotton Initiative, they do that through BMP. So what we have is Better Cotton claim units, and Karim has told you about this already, and we'll probably go into it a little bit more. So each season these are zeroed out. Last season they were zeroed out the 15th of April, so it'll be a similar time next year. So how do growers become BMP certified? There's a bit of a process involved. First they've got to actually register on the BMP website, and they can do that by just going on www.mybmp.com. So there's free access for all cotton growers. There's no charge or nothing involved in that. And other people can also register for BMP. So all your merchants or other industry people can simply go on there and request for registration, and you'll be given rights to actually access the information that growers actually see on the website. So the first step is growers actually go through their self-assessment. They set up a self-assessment for their farms, and they run through that looking at level 1 and level 2 checklist items, and they complete these. Checklist items are actually for their management practices on farm. Level 1 is it applies to legal requirements on their farm, and level 2 is industry standard. So when they've completed these online, they request an audit, and the audits are third-party audits conducted by qualified independent auditors. And the grower is required to pay a fee for the audit and invoiced by the auditor, and that's in the range of about $1,500 to $2,000. I've added that in because that was one of the questions that came from merchants, so what the requirements are and what the costs are for growers to get involved in better cotton. So my BMP certification, if they pass their audit, they receive certification, and this lasts for 5 years, and then random audits are conducted as well. So what are cotton growers required to do? As I said, they're required to be My BMP certified. They're required to pay a full Cotton Australia levy, and then they just let us know whether they want to opt in for the Better Cotton initiative in that production year. So once they've done that, they've got to comply with the Better Cotton initiative's reporting requirements throughout the season. So there's a number of series of things that they've got to do at different times a year in reporting back to the My BMP office, which is passed on to the Better Cotton initiative. So once they're accepted and opted into the Better Cotton initiative, they're given a unique farm ID number, and this number stays with that particular farm throughout every year from there on. So it's a COTOS number, and it's got 6 digits after that. The first digit's actually the 16 will apply to the year, so often there's confusion from growers and merchants that they may need a different number because there's got that 16 in there, but that's just the year that the grower actually joined the Better Cotton initiative. So what happens when Better Cotton is traded in Australia? Growers are allocated BCCUs, which is the Better Cotton Claim Units, based on the amount of BCI lint that's produced in that current production year. So 1 BCCU equals 1 kilogram of physical better cotton. So growers must provide their COTOS code to their merchant on the sale of better cotton, and Better Cotton Claim Units must be sold to the same merchant as a physical cotton, but not necessarily at the same time. Merchants must enter the transaction into Tracer when the contract is fulfilled, that is on a bale or shipment from a grower to the merchant. And Cotton Australia, once this transaction's taken place and it's entered into the Tracer system, Cotton Australia, through the My BMP office, receives an email notification of that transaction, and then Cotton Australia confirms the transaction with the grower. So this is a check loop to make sure that that everything's is done correctly. Production and consumption. I'll hand back over to you, Karim.
Yeah, thank you. And it's the farmer's code, the grower's code is quite interesting actually, guys, because Australia is, I think, along with Israel, is the only country where we don't have the actual names of growers in our traceability system, and everything goes through Cotton Australia. So if somebody approaches me and says, if a mail comes to BCI and says, where do I buy, or which growers do I buy BCI from, we forward all these inquiries to Cotton Australia to handle them and make these connections. But this is a unique situation for Australia. So just to give you guys an overall picture of how much BCI is available around the world and what we're doing towards reaching that 30%. The numbers that we're seeing are coming from last season, 2015-16 season, where we were able to reach almost 12% of the global cotton supply. Obviously, Australia, Brazil, CMIA, the light green countries you're seeing, which are benchmark countries, which means there was an existing sustainability standard already, and we just sat down and compared our standard to theirs and concluded that the standards match at a minimum level. Therefore, growers in Australia can receive a BCI license quite easily without having to deal with BCI directly, as you saw on the previous slides. But in the dark green countries, which is a growing number actually, we as BCI have to go in there and talk with the growers almost on a one-to-one basis. In most cases, obviously, with the help of a local partner. This local partner could be an industry player, it could be a gin, it could be a large mill, it could be an NGO, but this is how it's working at the moment. Last year, again, we licensed about almost 2 million tons around the world. This season, we're hoping that that number is going to go up to 2.67 million tons, which should really help us towards reaching that 30% goal. We have a long ways to go, but this is our 6th harvest season, so in a short period of time, I think going from 0 to 12% is quite a success, and we're really excited about this. And once again, the type of partnership that we have between BCI and Cotton Australia is quite priceless for us because of this reason. Again, you can see our numbers here more clearly over the past 6 seasons, where we started from 0 and reached almost 3 million tons actually. So it's all, I always mention this in all my presentations. Whenever I'm presenting numbers, everything is skyrocketing year after year, so I have a fairly easy job to just get up there and present these numbers. But the goal is obviously to just keep these numbers skyrocketing year after year so that we can reach our 30% goal rapidly. Okay, this slide is showing how many retailers, brands, suppliers, and manufacturers are taking part in our initiative. I wanted to show this slide to you guys simply because I wanted to demonstrate how we approach creating demand for better cotton around the world. So I'm not going to go over every single number, but if we take a look at the first row, for example, retailers and brands, you can see the number of retailers and brands increasing, which is quite key for us. This year, so far, we recruited 17 new retailers and brands. Our target was 16. There's a very detailed calculation behind these numbers. They're all geared towards reaching that 30% and then making sure that a certain volume of that is procured by our retailers and brands. In the upcoming years, we want to increase our efforts into recruiting more retailers and brands. So this number you're seeing, 17 this year, will hopefully be around 30 next year and the year after. Suppliers and manufacturers, again, as you can see, the numbers are increasing quite rapidly. It's almost every other day we receive a new application from a new mill wanting to join BCI as a BCI member and start procuring better cotton simply because they're seeing the demand from their customers. There's a bit of explanation I need to make here. Suppliers and manufacturers, and then you have total members. And then right underneath that, you have BCT users only. BCT is Better Cotton Tracer, our traceability system. The reason why we distinguish between members and users is because to certain suppliers and manufacturers, fabric mills, garment manufacturers to be exact, we give them the option to either become a BCI member or just gain access to our traceability system without becoming a member. And since we opened that option to these guys, we've been seeing quite a lot of fabric mills and garment manufacturers using our traceability system. So if we add all the members and users, as you can see, 1,365. That's a large number of suppliers, manufacturers that we're interacting almost on a daily basis. The GINers are neither BCI members, but they must use our traceability system. But then again, they don't pay BCI any fees at the moment. So they have their own category down there all by themselves. But then again, we service them, we train them, we provide them with access to our traceability system. So in terms of the workload it takes to engage a ginner or a spinning mill, it's quite the same from our perspective. So especially my team, the supply chain team, whose job it is to make sure everybody is using the traceability system properly. When I look at these numbers, I tend to bundle up members, users, and ginners all in one, in which case you can see we're almost around 2,000 suppliers and manufacturers globally. If you remember the beginning slides where I mentioned we're 55 people around the world, I think we're doing a good job so far in terms of maintaining the day-to-day operations. Again, this slide is just showing you guys how many different types of suppliers we have at the moment that are taking part in the BCI Better Cotton Initiative at a global level. I think the number of spinning mills is quite important for you guys. It's almost at 700 as of the end of August. And if I checked our database today, I wouldn't be surprised if we exceeded that number, exceeded 700 actually, just because we're receiving quite a lot of applications from these spinning mills. Spinners are obviously, to me, are the ones who actually procure better cotton. Some of our retailers and brands, sometimes when they present, they say, well, we're buying this much, we're procuring that much. But in the end, I think it's the suppliers who buy better cotton from our growers and gins. So, so that number to me is quite crucial. When we talk about uptake, it's the spinners that procure better cotton from our growers. So, so that's a number that I always keep an eye out on. Ginners, fabric mills, traders, merchants, garment manufacturers are obviously quite important for us too. You're seeing much lower numbers of fabric mills and garment manufacturers compared to spinning mills. That's simply because until the beginning of 2015, our traceability system was not even developed to allow these guys to use it. And there was a lot of physical documentation flying around in the supply chain to document better cotton procurement by spinning mills. But as of last year, we've developed the system, and now any type of supplier in the textile supply chain can actually use our traceability system. So hopefully the numbers for fabric mills and garment manufacturers will be increasing rapidly as well. Again, spinners, 678 spinners worldwide in 30 countries. This is quite impressive to me. However, what you guys need to keep in mind is 616 of these, a little over 90%, are located in 5 countries. So when you think about, well, who buys better cotton with mills in what countries I should be targeting, these are the 5 countries you should definitely be targeting: China, India, Pakistan, Turkey, and Bangladesh. And while we have over 90% of our spinners located in these countries, we also see that 90% of all BCI procured around the world are also procured from these countries. So again, no matter which way you look at it, these 5 countries should be on your target list when you want to sell your BCI to. Yeah. So this one, I definitely wanted to show it to you guys. It's a comparison, monthly comparison of better cotton consumption by spinning mills, and it's just a comparison between the same months between 2015 and 16. The gray ones are last year, green ones are this year. As you can see, month after month, demand for better cotton is increasing around the world. And this is not an unusual picture. If I prepared the same slide for 2014 versus 15, you would be seeing a very similar picture. Just to show you guys that demand for BCI is increasing, and we intend to keep it this way. Retailers and brands. Again, this year we've included 17 new retailers and brands. The combined consumption of new members alone was 500,000 tons. At the moment, we have 62 retailers and brands, and combined consumption of all our members are over 2 million tons. Again, this is how we approach recruiting new brands and retailers. We want to make sure that we're including all the large guys with heavy cotton consumption as BCI members, so that we can keep demand increasing year after year. Last year, we had 24 brands sourcing BCI. This year, we have 41 sourcing BCI, and that number, again, will be increasing in the upcoming years. This slide, again, it's showing spinner uptake versus brands and retailer uptake for the same years. So if we take a look at, for example, RB stands for retailers and brands, by the way. If we take a look at retailer and brand uptake for last year, we ended up with 252,000 tons. Our target was 250, so we made it. We barely made it, but we made that target. This year, our retailer and brand uptake target is 500,000 tons. Right now, as of today, we're at 310, so we have a little bit more to go. It'll be very interesting to see if we reach that target. If we do, it'll be a great day for me. It means that we doubled our consumption from the previous year, and that is exactly what we like to see year after year. And this is why we keep recruiting new retailers and brands along with their suppliers and manufacturers as BCI members or stakeholders. Spinner uptake is usually around twice as much as the retailer and brand uptake for the same period. Obviously, it takes a while for the bales to be procured and spun into yarn and woven into fabric and whatnot, and then finished products to be delivered. So there's a bit of a time lag between spinner consumption and retailers' claims. But again, this ratio of 1 to 2 is what we've been seeing year after year. So if the trend continues this year, this orange line should end up somewhere at 500,000 tons, and the spinner uptake should be somewhere around 1 million tons. Again, our target for this year is 500,000 tons of retailer and brand claims. Right now we're at 310 and we have 190 remaining. A few takeaways about our numbers. Supply and demand, they're both growing. Number of suppliers growing but concentrated in 5 countries. So if you're thinking about or trying to find homes for your BCI bales, please keep that in mind. We have quite ambitious targets until 2020. Next year target, for example, 2017, retailer and brand procurement or claim target is 1 million tons. So again, last year it was 250. This year our target is 500. We're very likely to hit that number actually. And then next year we are hoping that that number is going to go up to 1 million. So it's doubling every year is what we're trying to. So far, this has been the trend.
Okay, this is a story for the Australian BCI production. We've started off with around the 54,000 tonnes, and we've increased on a long-term basis. But the second, in 2015, there was a fair drop just due to lower production levels, and the seasons weren't good in a lot of regions, and growers who were certified, some growers who were certified didn't opt in for BCI in those years. So if we can go through to the next slide, I'll give you the figures for each of these over the 4 years. So we've got 2014, there's 54,000 tonnes of BCI lint. 2015, we dropped a little there, but our percentage was still increased, the percentage of BCI on the total production in 2015 actually increased slightly. Each year that percentage of BCI lint in that far right hand column there is actually increased. In 2016, that's the we're still getting our reports in from growers on the actual bales of BCI lint that have been harvested, but that's pretty close to where we should finish up, around that 57,000 tonnes of BCI lint, which is around 10.5% of the production for 2016. Forecasts for the coming season looking quite good. You know, we're sort of actually almost double the BCI lint that we had the last season. This mainly due to forecasts for a bigger area, bigger tonnage of cotton in Australia, and slightly more in the percentage of BCI in that tonnage. So quite a dramatic increase this year for merchants looking for better cotton. I think I'll hand back over to Krem.
Yeah, this is again one of the things I wanted to emphasize to you guys. Creating demand is something that we talk about around BCI on a daily basis. The on-product tags that I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, you're seeing a couple of examples of it. We will be seeing these products with BCI logos and tags in stores starting this fall, which is quite exciting for us to see, just simply because I think once we start raising awareness at the consumer level, the demand for BCI products will also increase, and this should definitely help us recruit more retailers and brands. The claim that's placed on these tags are quite sensitive. Obviously, we have this mass balance system that I'll explain to you in just a little bit. It's basically a credit system, therefore there's no physical content claim on any of our tags, but again, I think the tag is going to have a huge impact on in terms of helping us create more demand for better cotton around the world and among retailers and brands. So I just wanted to put the slide up there and let you guys know that this is happening this fall. All right. With a global supply and mass balance, how are we achieving these uptake numbers? Uptake is, again, quite essential for us. We're not just in the game for implementing a farm level standard system and then leaving it up to the rest of the industry to procure it and then make their claims. We try to engage the entire supply chain. We try to help our retailers and brands procure the cotton, place their orders, and make sure that collect the correct documentation so that they can make their claims confidently. As you can see, we're in 25 countries around the world. Some of these countries are benchmark countries with existing standard systems. Some of them are our direct countries, but either way, BCI is rapidly spreading around the world, and a part of this is definitely making it easy for retailers and brands to source it. As a result, we, as a chain of custody, we picked to go with a mass balance system rather than a physical traceability methodology or a book and claims methodology. There are a few different choices to sustainability initiatives to pick and choose from when it comes to chain of custody, which is basically just a set of rules that everybody has to comply with when they're buying and selling BCI and documenting their trade. At the bottom here, you're seeing Better Cotton Tracer. It's from producer to retailer, and everyone else in between can use it. So it's an end-to-end traceability system. When I say traceability system, I definitely want to make it clear that we're not the bales physically, but what we're tracing is the volume of BCI that's being demanded and procured between suppliers and manufacturers. Yeah. So if you go to the next slide, please. I'd like to explain to you how mass balance simply works, and I will do this in a very simple term. So I'm sure you'll have questions later on, and I'll be happy to answer these later on. But just to go over this very simply, for merchants, we have what we call a mass balance with a country scope requirement, which means if I'm a trading company and I bought a kilo of Australian better cotton, it comes with 1 BCCU, as Rick explained earlier, better cotton claim unit. It corresponds to 1 kilogram of physical better cotton procured by a merchant. As merchants, I can also buy conventional cotton from another Australian farmer, and when to fulfill my BCI order with the mill, I'm not obliged to ship them the physical bale I bought, physical better cotton I bought. I basically, when I bought BCI, I entered that purchase into the traceability system, which gives me these credits in my account. And then when I'm selling BCI, I can basically ship a conventional cotton bale and attach these credits just to prove that I actually bought physical better cotton at some point in the past. Yeah, so this is the basic idea behind mass balance system. For if we go to the next slide, please. For our mills, it becomes even an easier process simply because we have a site scope for mills, which means the country of origin is no longer an obligation. They could be buying BCI from Australia. They could be buying conventional cotton from another origin. When they make the yarn, they're free to use whichever bale they see fit for that order. and again, they're able to earn these credits when they buy BCI, and they're able to allocate it to yarns made with any cotton from any origin. So things become a bit more easier for mills. And this is the basic idea behind mass balancing, guys. Until about 4 years ago, we did require physical traceability, which, as you can imagine, was a huge challenge given the fact that we didn't have much supply available around the world. We were only in a very limited number of countries, but it's very common for a denim mill, for example, to use cotton from 5 different origins as their standard blend. So in a setting like that, when you require physical traceability and say you can only use physical better cotton bales to make that yarn and fabric, this was becoming quite a challenge. It was adding a lot to the lead times, production costs. So just because it's a better fit to mainstreaming and scaling up operations, mass balance was the great solution for us. So we've implemented the mass balance system 4 years ago, and I can tell that it has opened up the floodgates for us. So so far it's working quite beautifully for us. So back to you, Rick.
Yeah, thanks, Prem. So sourcing better cotton in Australia, we're often asked the question, you know, we're not actually making that link between the merchant and the grower is often a weak point, and merchants ask us, you know, how do we know who the better cotton growers are? Well, we actually have a list of growers who have opted in for better cotton for the season. So this list is readily available to anyone who asks for it. We've also shared this with the Australian Cotton Shippers Association, ACSA, so you can also access that list through ACSA. The other thing is, I suggest to merchants is when you buy cotton, just ask if they're a better cotton grower or if they're registered for BCI, in case they don't understand exactly what you're asking. And just make a list of these growers that are growing better cotton, because once they start, it's likely that they'll continue each year to grow better cotton or to opt in to grow better cotton. So next year we're looking to actually put this list up on the website. So the My BMP and Cotton Australia websites. So it will be accessible just by going online to find out who that list is. But I just want to make one note there that we actually ask permission for growers to share that information, so you may not always see every grower because some growers are fairly loyal and wish to stay with their merchant, so they don't really want to be sharing the information with everybody. So yeah. So at this point, just wondering whether anyone has any questions that they'd like to ask either Krem or myself, or even Corin's still on, and or Nicole, who works in the administration area.
Yeah, Matt Brad at Ecom here.
Hello, Matt.
Hey, so I've just got one question on the, if a grower sells, when you said on the slide, a grower can sell the merchant the physical cotton, they don't need to sell the BCI credits at the same time. Does that mean if the merchant doesn't want the BCI credits, they're free to sell to somebody else, or they have to expire worthless?
You want me to jump in, Rick? If you don't mind, actually, let me just do. Hi, Matt. So the credits as a merchant, when you buy BCI from a BCI grower, as I mentioned, you log into your traceability system account, you enter the purchase. For every kilo you buy, you earn 1 BCI credit, and those credits for merchants, they never expire. So you buy the physical bale, you can sell it to a mill that's not asking for BCI, but just asking for Australian cotton. You're free to sell it to them, your credits will remain in your account. The only caveat here is if you want to fulfill a BCI order with a mill and you have the credits, you already procured the bales, you have to be shipping them Australian bales. It doesn't have to be BCI bales, that the physical bales you bought. It could be conventional Australian bales, but it has to originate from Australia.
Yeah, okay. So going back to the farmers who are BCI growers, they might sell cotton to a merchant, but that merchant might not necessarily want to pay them for the BCI credits. They're able to sell those BCI credits to another merchant.
You can definitely also sell. Okay, so the rule is you're not allowed to sell just the credits to a mill or another merchant. Credits must always accompany a physical trade. So even if as e-com you're selling bales to, let's say, Cargill, there has to be a physical bale shipped to Cargill so that you can transfer your credits to Cargill. Does this make sense? Am I making myself clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to also inform you guys, as BCI has been growing over the years, the number of growers, merchants, mills is also rapidly increasing, as you saw. The rules that we have were available to us to pick and choose from. We haven't just come up with this mass balance system. There's an organization called ICEAL, which is sort of like the standard for all sustainable standards that come up with these rules. So when we said, okay, we'll go with mass balance system, a whole set of rules came along with it. So our job here is to make sure that people are compliant with the rules. This year, we hired a new staff, our compliance coordinator. We're going through some of the countries and auditing the transactions, the purchases and sales that are entered by our system users, and making sure that whatever is entered into the system is actually accurate, and there was a physical shipment that reflects that transaction entered into the system. Australia is not obvious. I shouldn't say that, but is not on top of my list for auditing. We started with India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, China. This year we're going to audit Turkey. I'm quite confident with transactions from Australia simply because it's usually grower to merchant transactions, and our merchants are super compliant and due diligent. But I think it's just a matter of making clear that everybody understands the rules and what they are and what to do and what not to do. So again, just wanted to mention the credit trading is a whole other chain of custody method called booking claims. Under that methodology, you can buy and sell credits without any physical shipments, but under the mass balance system, there has to be a physical shipment of bales.
Thank you.
No problem.
Matt, it's Adam Kay here. It is something that we are certainly having discussions with BCI about, because for the retailers and brands, they get the ability to have a mass balance system, but for Australian growers and merchants, they don't. There's this requirement for the sort of the physical traceability. So we're certainly in discussions with the the executive and the council at BCI on that topic.
Thanks for the update.
Yeah, like as Adam said, this topic has come up a number of times in our board and council. We're I'm keeping in touch with Adam and some of the other folks over there. Corin is doing the same. We're trying to make sure that what we have will fit the industry norms in Australia, and the growers will continue to receive some sort of reward for going through the process and acquiring a BCI license. But at the moment, the rules I mentioned are in place. Doesn't mean that in the future they will change. We're constantly trying or making the efforts necessary to make sure that what we have in place actually fits the norms of the industry in Australia. So, but at the moment, as I explained, the bales have to be accompanied by the credits or vice versa. Any other questions, guys, for me or for anyone else on the call? I mean, please feel free to raise any concerns, ask any questions. This is one opportunity that I certainly don't get to interact with you guys. So please just don't hesitate to let me know if you have any questions whatsoever.
We might move on to just the contact details there before we hand back to Karim for a demonstration of the tracer system for any of those who want to stay on and watch that.
Yeah, so within BCI, as I mentioned, I'm the supply chain manager, and these are the contacts of my team you're seeing. Each of us are fully capable of supporting you guys when it comes to your questions or how to use the traceability system or gaining access to the system. So please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us with any of your questions. We're here to help you and support you with all things to do with BCI.
And the same in Australia. We've got the Cotton Australia team, well mainly Nicole and myself, that can help with any inquiries about either a copy of this presentation or just general Australian BCI administration requirements and reporting inquiries. The growers that use Better Cotton, and also just to check on grower codes. I think most of you are aware of that anyway. But then also you can go to Tracy at AXA for a copy of the growers who are involved in Better Cotton. That's it for the presentation, but hold on if you want to go through the tracer system, a demonstration on how that works with Karim. Those of you who don't use the tracer system and don't want to sit through that, thank you very much for being involved. Feel free to send your questions by email or give us a call, either through to the BMP office, to myself or Nicole, or also through to the BCI office with Karim and his team. So thank you very much for listening through the presentation, and please stay on if you want to see the online demonstration of how to use Tracer. Thanks very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.